Hello, welcome to my channel, All Being Well. I'm Rachel. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I'm genuinely so grateful when people tune in and watch. If you like what you're seeing and hearing, then please like and subscribe. This is a really new channel, so every bit of feedback really helps. So thank you in advance. I would like to talk to you today about decluttering. Clutter is so bad for us. It makes our bodies release stress hormones, which is why for some of us if your home is really disorganized and cluttered, it literally makes us feel like we're under attack. Clutter is a bit of a funny word, though, isn't it? It sparks different responses in people, but fundamentally, it is just stuff. It's our stuff, but it's stuff that is in our line of sight. It's in our way. It's filling our space or overfilling our space. I think obviously a bit of it is to do with having enough storage space. If you had a 20-bedroom castle, maybe the clutter wouldn't feel so imposing as if you live in a studio apartment, of course. But I think it's actually a bigger issue. It's often, I think, really the issue with the clutter is that it's emotional stuff and it's stuff that's hard to work through, or hard enough to work through at enough of a pace that you feel like you're actually, getting somewhere with it, that you're getting on with it. So I've put together this video today with a few different ideas about some, quick wins regarding the clutter. So I really hope it's helpful. So just take a moment to think why we even end up with the clutter. I do think actually the bigger the space you have, the more kind of susceptible you are to clutter because there's kind of more places for the clutter to kind of creep into. I think if you start off with a bigger space, it takes longer for those little piles of detritus to start to get in your way and start to get under your feet. And I think by the time you sort of recognize them and notice them, it may have gone too far to reset quickly. Although, not all of us are burdened with enormous houses that we can fill with our clutter. So that's certainly not the case for a lot of us. Another thing, though, that can make clutter materialize is actually the practicality of who's doing what in your house. I'm quite a fan of routines and systems for keeping on top of, looking after your home and looking after cleaning tasks and avoiding the clutter. But the really key thing with that is if your systems are going to work to keep your house clean and tidy, then everybody needs to be doing it. So sometimes it is actually a practical thing that the whole family isn't pulling enough weight together to keep your home tidy. So maybe one person is single-handedly dealing with all those little bits of detritus, whereas everyone else is just making little piles and leaving them in the way, or just waiting for somebody else to act on it. That feels like a separate topic, though, so we'll perhaps come back to that another time. I do think there is an aspect, though, with clutter that it feeds into some of our responses to forms of grief. And so I think actually when we're, thinking about how we address clutter and how we work through our living space, if it's not working very well for us, we do need to remember to be gentle with ourselves, and be awake to the fact that that might be the case for us, at least on some of the things. Now, obviously, when we're talking about grief, it could be the kind of huge sort of grief, like, the death of a loved one. And that can be really difficult when somebody else's possessions then become yours and you've got to address them suddenly because they're in your space when they weren't previously. Those kind of things are obviously really hard to work through. But I think it also applies in a smaller way, to changing circumstances or having to find a way to be okay with things as you move on. Now, obviously, if you've just lost your partner, you know that that huge thing has happened, and everyone around you also knows, and taking the time to be gentle with yourself is part of that process. I think we're more likely to see it, but I think actually some other things are those same grieving processes but are much harder to accept them in that way. So for instance, a good example of this is baby equipment. So you might stash it all up in the loft in case you have another baby, but then one day will come when you need to assess whether that day's going to happen. Are we going to have another baby? Are we ready to throw all this stuff away or sell it or pass it on? And how long do we leave it before we say we're definitely done? And that sometimes comes with that understandable anxiety that if you said, you know what, we're done, clear it all out, that the very next day, obviously, you would inevitably find out that you're pregnant and have to buy it all again, which I think is a realistic fear too. I say realistic fear, I don't mean for all of us, but I mean, it's an understandable fear that we might think, oh God, if I get rid of all this stuff, what if I need it again? And another thing, though, that's a kind of grief motivated thing, I would say, is things like hobbies, materials for hobbies that you had an aspiration that you would do, but then for whatever reason you haven't carried that out, which might be partly because your house is really cluttered and you haven't got the headspace to do that lovely craft project that you had in mind. Um, or often as well, the thing that creates this kind of archive of clutter that we're not really okay with dealing with is clothing. Now, that can be really hard, can't it? Loads of reasons why parting with old clothing can be difficult. So maybe your body shape has changed and you're not so happy with your new body shape and you wish to be your old body shape. Or it might represent a time of life that you have left behind, but maybe there's some processing still that you're doing there. Anyway, what I'm saying is there's lots of these things that are quite tricky and we mustn't just, steamroller ourselves and tell ourselves that it's fine because sometimes they take a little bit of time. And we need to recognise this and go easy on ourselves and find a way to gently tackle it. But there's absolutely loads of different methods for decluttering. And I think part of the process for you setting out on this journey is to find the ones that work well for you in this particular stage of life that you're in or the particular situation that you're in. There's absolutely loads, and lots of them could work for you on one day with one type of thing, but there might be a different one to be a preference on another. So I quite like Marie Kondo's method. I used it actually a few years ago and literally got rid of half of my possessions with it. There's also the method that they use on that TV show Sort Your Life Out, where they get everything together in a space and sort of have the opportunity to see everything in its entirety but out of context. I mean, obviously that's hard to do if you haven't got that room to put it in, but it can help to kind of attack one room at a time, or if you've brought in a load of new stuff, that kind of method can work well. But obviously those really big experiences dealing with the stuff that's really weighing us down, we maybe need a bit of a plan for. Maybe we need to brace ourselves that that's going to be harder. Some of the methods actually are quite nice for a quick win. And I think if you do feel a bit overwhelmed with where to start, a method that I really like is, I don't know a name for it. Well, maybe think of a name for it. 10 items to get rid of. So you basically set yourself a challenge to just find 10 items from any room in the house, from any category of stuff that you're just going to let go on that day. So that's what I've done. I'm going to show you now what I've done. So I had a quick walk around the house. I've gathered up 10 things, which I have filed in this rather impressive laundry basket. And I'm just going to tell you what's in there and why they're in there. So I've tried to categorise as I've gone into why they need to go. Now, these are quick wins and there's nothing wildly emotional in here. So we're not addressing like Granny's jewellery or, anything that's really emotional today. This is basically just junk that's in my house that for whatever reason shouldn't be. And so I just want to talk through them because actually this little list of things to go and look for is really helpful because it's not emotional and it will mean that you've collected a whole bunch of stuff together and you can say, right, that bit's gone. And that means you've started. So starting at the top with things that are actually broken. Now, this one should be easy, shouldn't it? This is an item that either doesn't work for whatever reason is clinging on, or it's got a reason why it is actually physically damaged. Now, I am a big advocate for repairing and restoring, but sometimes it isn't actually possible. And this is an example. So this is a coffee mug that's been lurking in my house for quite some time. It has a crack. You won't see it on the camera. It has a crack around the handle, which has been repaired once with super glue. It's not lasting. It's quite weak. We don't want a weak handle on a coffee cup. Obviously, the charity shop don't want a chipped mug. There's nothing they can do with that. So this is actually just rubbish. We've got plenty of mugs, so this one has no reason to still occupy the space in the house. So what do you do with a ceramic mug that's just damaged? I mean, there's not actually a lot you can do with it, really. On the one hand, it can go to the tip and go in with things like ceramic tiles. But you might have noticed I have quite a few houseplants dangling around. And actually, I've got a few that need to be repotted, and broken pottery is quite good to go in the bottom of pots. So I'm going to do that with it. I'm going to smash it and use it when I repot some of my pots. Although I do know myself, and I shall do this quite quickly so that I don't change my mind. Okay, next on the list then, again, should be an easy one. Things that you have already replaced. Now, how many times have we done this? You've got an item that actually is showing its age and it's not, really what you need anymore. So you get a new one. And then for some reason, the old one is still there. So now you have a duplicate, but they're not equal because you've got a better one, a newer one, and an improved one. So these are my old slippers. They have really, served me well. They've really lost their grip on the bottom. There's a bit that's split in the back there. The charity shop don't want these; they're too tatty for them, so they need to go to the shoe recycling at the tip. But goodbye, old friends. Thank you for all the cozy days. And my new ones are beautiful, so they're the replacement. Okay, so next on my hit list is things that you are choosing not to use. Now, this is an interesting category because actually you've kind of emotionally decluttered this anyway, because you've got this item that isn't the one you reach for, but yet the only thing you haven't done yet is move it out of the house. Lots of things fall into this actually. Later on in the basket, there's a kitchen utensil which might also be this, if you know what I mean, where there's just a better option that you pick. But in this instance, it's a book. Dawn French, I love you in many, many ways, but I just didn't love this book. Please don't be offended. I picked this book up in the secondhand bookstore at our local supermarket a few weeks ago. I gave it a try, but it's just not calling me. I did read a few chapters. I took it with me when I had a long train journey, and for that time when I was on the train, I did have a good go at it. But to be honest, I just haven't gone back to it, so I'm highly unlikely to suddenly go back and finish it, particularly when I've got, hundreds of other books that I probably would prefer to read sooner. So again, this was a good try, but it wasn't really what I needed. So it's going on its way. With this one, I could take it to the charity shop. I'm actually just going to go and put it back on the stall in the supermarket, where I picked it up from, and someone else can donate their pound and have another go with it. But yeah, so that is one that you are already choosing not to use, but you just need to push it out the door to free up the space. Right, so we're on number four, things that don't work as well as they could. This is actually the utensil that I just mentioned. So I have this fish slice flipper, food flipper thingy. It's a bit annoying. It's a bit too thick. It's one of those that when you're trying to get it under the side of an egg or something, it's not got enough of a sharp edge. I have a much better one that I bought recently from the Big Blue Wonderland, which is much better than this one. It also looks a bit tatty. Um, I don't think the charity shop would want it because it looks a bit too battle weary. Now, this is plastic, but it's not the kind of plastic that you can recycle by just popping it in your council bin with your pop bottles. This actually needs to go in the hard plastic skip at the tip. But anyway, so that can go. Right. So, number five is things that you like the idea of more than the thing itself. And that is a huge category. I quite often watch videos by the Minimal Mom, Dawn, who is excellent. And one of the things she said, which is really revolutionary, is that when you're worrying about whether you've wasted money, you're not wasting money today on the day when you throw the thing away. You wasted the money on the day that you bought it. And this cardigan is a classic example of that. So it's by quite a nice UK brand. I liked it because it has this kind of funky asymmetric zip. It's also a wool blend, which I prefer to, a wool blend to the man-made fibres if we can. Um, but the thing is with it, yes, it's got the funky asymmetric zip, but it's actually really fiddly to do it up. And the end result is that the neckline is really weird. It doesn't sit well on other things. So I'd hardly worn it. I kind of like the idea of it, but the colour's not great for me. It makes me look a little bit washed out. The zip's a bit annoying. There's just loads of reasons why I probably shouldn't have actually purchased this. But yet, because I spent a lot of money on it and because I kind of want to like it, but years later, it's still hanging on in my cupboard. So this is a classic one for minimal mums rationale that the waste of the money isn't today when I'm putting it in the charity shop or wherever. The waste was all those years ago when I actually bought it. Um, It is quite a nice brand though, so I will give it a whirl on selling sites first. With selling sites, I'm always a bit mindful that you don't want to clear things out your cupboard and then put them in a place in your house where you're, selling them and then they sit there for months and months and months because nobody's actually buying them. So I think give it a couple of weeks. If it sells in a couple of weeks, great. If it doesn't, charity shop, and then we can all get on with our lives and buy jumpers that we actually like and wear. Right, number six is things that have had their day. What do I mean by that? What I mean is things that they're not broken. It does technically work, but it's just not great anymore. It's just tired. And the example of this is this oven tray. We bought them ages ago. We actually had two at the time. That we bought them to make pizzas on them for a particular, family do that we were doing pizzas for. It's a bit battered. The non-stickness isn't very non-sticky anymore. There's a few bits that are a bit rusty. But we've recently had a new kitchen and obviously had a new oven, so have acquired a few new oven trays. And this tatty old one, it's not the right size to be convenient. We've got better, smaller ones. It's not the newer one, and it just kind of lurks in the drawer, not really being collected for. So I think it's time for it to go. I have no personal use for it myself. The charity shop on wanted to tatty, but the scrap metal collector will snap it up. So I'm going to leave it outside for them to collect when they come round. So that will go and inevitably be recycled. Now then, things that we just don't need. This is a little spinning top that was in the party bags for my daughter's birthday party in the summer. The idea of it, if you can see, oh, can you see it? No, it's really overlit. Oh, I can't, I can't make it show on the camera. There you go. It's got like an etched design on it, so children can colour it in and then do the spinning thing with it. My daughter's 8. She's not really that thrilled with the spinning thing. She had a couple of goes of it across the kitchen table. It's just basically knocked around for a few months now, not being enjoyed and loved. So I'm just going to pop it in a bag of bits and bobs I've got for my daughter's school has an after school club, which they're always asking for, you know, board games and hand-me-downs and craft equipment for the children to use after that as donation. So that can definitely go in there. And maybe someone else can decorate it and enjoy it, and then it can go. So yeah, that one is off. Now then, things from the past. Now, this is interesting. This is Cluedo, Junior Cluedo. Oh, sorry, it's really noisy. This is the children's version of Cluedo, um, which we did quite enjoy. We played it a few times. We realised during our kind of post Christmas how we're going to fit all the new toys away, declutter of the toys. That we hadn't played it for ages. We weren't sure why we hadn't because we did enjoy playing it before. So we had a test play of it to see if it was still fun. And actually, it's too easy. My daughter's 8 now. This on its age says 5 plus. And it was too early in the process where it was obvious where it was going, and it just didn't have the kind of the gritty fun that an 8-year-old is looking for. So I think actually we might be ready for real Cluedo with the little candlestick and all those kind of things. So this is also going to go in the bag for the after school club, who are always grateful for games and toys. So yeah, this is like a thing that it had its moment. It's still fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that we're not in that, as the minimum one would say, season of life. We're not in that season of life anymore. So we're going to pass that on. Right now, things that we have finished with. So this lovely little coat was my daughter's winter coat last year and possibly the year before. It's in excellent condition, apart from the fact that it's missing a button, but I have the button, so I'm going to stitch it on. This button has floated around for ages and I couldn't remember what it was from. And then when she outgrew the coat, it's like, oh, there you are. And I've still got this button all this long. So yeah, I'm going to stitch the button back on it. And then this is a classic example of something that is worth selling. Put it on an online selling site. Hopefully somebody will get themselves a bargain. But as I said, I'm really mindful of creating a kind of I'll get to it, it's in progress secondary stash pile, because what you end up with then is just a cupboard full of clutter that's now got a reason why it's allowed to be there, and actually it needs to go. So this is a good example of that. Again, give it a couple of weeks, see if anyone fancies it. It does need to go quite quickly. It's February, early February, so winter coats have got, a few weeks, couple of months still that people are going to need them. If you faff around with it and it's May, nobody wants a winter coat. So, and the charity shops don't want them out of season either. So it's definitely a kind of get on with it, seize the moment, kind of thing. So task for me tonight to stitch the button back on, get it photographed, get it online. Hopefully someone will buy it. And if not, we've got a local school uniform swap shop, which is great. It's where you can donate school uniform and then people can go and collect it free. It's not a charity shop we have to pay for it. You can literally just go and collect a bag of uniform free of charge for people who need to go and do that. So that is definitely a good idea. And I've got one last thing to show you. The last thing to show you is this. It is a ceramic house that you put a tea light inside it, and then when you put the tea light in, it lights up all the little windows. I think it's quite cute. I definitely liked it. This falls into the category of things that I do like, but I don't use. And actually, this is quite a tricky category because you don't use these every day necessarily. Maybe you'd use them, I don't know, maybe they're winter things. Maybe it's something that you think, okay, well, it's an ornament, but sometimes it actually gets used. I haven't put a candle in it in absolutely ages. So it's obviously not the thing I'm reaching for. I had a gift voucher a couple of years ago for an online craft website as a birthday present, and this is what I bought with it. And I enjoyed it. I used it quite a few times, and it is quite sweet. But actually, the reason I'm not such a fan of it is because it's dark on the inside. The glaze colour inside it is dark, so it doesn't bounce the light around as much as it could. And I realised I haven't used it the whole way through this winter. So to say, oh, well, this is a winter item, this is, for those lovely autumn hygge moments, hasn't actually happened for me yet. Partly because I have made one that I much prefer. I am an amateur potter, and I've made this one, which is just much more my cup of tea, with the little beach houses on it. And as you can see, because I glazed it white inside it, it does give a lot more light out of it. And also, this is mine. I made this, so it has more of a place in my heart. Oh, this other one. So this one is getting sold. I did actually already put this on a secondhand site, and it's sold. So a lady's bought it. You can fly off to her, and she can enjoy it. In fact, she's giving it as a present, so somebody else can enjoy it too. But yeah, this is good. I do like it. It's not being used at the moment, so it can go. So that's it. So that's 10 things gone. And effectively, this is now a basket of space, which I have in my house that I didn't have this morning. Um, so that's great. A basket of more space in your house can only be a good thing, yeah. Now I should say, obviously, none of this was the hardest emotional stuff. These were the quick wins, but it buoys you on then to attack some of those other things. And it gets a little bit of momentum when sometimes you just think, oh my God, I don't actually know where to start. So I hope this has been useful. I hope you've been buoyed to do the same. Let me know if you try this method in the comments, whether you managed to find yourself a bag of space in your house, and what kind of things you parted with. Have a wonderful rest of the day. I hope you're able to find some moments of restorative calm and hygge. Thank you for joining, and thank you for liking and subscribing, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.